everyone. This is the start of a new reading vlog, and I haven't done a reading vlog in a couple months because they just were starting to feel repetitive to me. But now that I'm on vacation and in a beach town for a couple months, I thought it would be fun to vlog a little bit, show you the beach, some of the local restaurants and stores here and things like that. And I am spending a lot of time reading, so I thought I would start these vlogs again, and they'll just be more relaxed. And if you would have seen in the B-roll footage, I did read on the beach today. I read about 70 pages of Fireborne by Rosaria Munda, and I am really liking this so far. It's really fun. This is not the kind of book that I normally read. Most of the fantasy that I do pick up is more magical in some way, like books about witches or that have a complex magic system, and this one is about dragons, and this one has a lot of politics in here. The history of this world is really interesting. I do think it does have a lot of stereotypical fantasy tropes, but I kind of like it for that reason. There's really no complaints from me so far about 70 pages in. I'm already attached to our two main characters, Annie and Lee. We get both of their perspectives, and they met as orphans, and they are now both in this competition. Love a good competition. It's a competition about riding dragons and battling with these dragons, so that is really cool. So they're both now in the finals or close to the finals for this competition, and Lee is keeping a secret about his past, and that is all I will say about that. But it's really interesting. I'm curious to see if their relationship evolves somehow. There's some more interesting side characters, the other people that they compete against, and the whole world's interesting. People are tested, and they're either placed in different levels: gold, iron, bronze, and then that tells them the jobs that they're going to have. And I think this is all going to blow up in their faces. They think that this is the ideal world right now, but I think the cracks are going to show in that system soon. So, and this is only a duology, so I love that as well. The second one's called Flamefall, so I already think I'm going to have to order that one because I'm really enjoying this. And actually, I'm listening to Gods and Monsters by Shelby Murhan. Is that who it is? Anyways, that's the third book in the Serpent and Dove trilogy. And I actually read it for a buddy read on Bookstagram. I have been part of this buddy read for 2 years now, maybe even longer. Every month we read a book together, and we read Serpent and Dove together. We all loved it. We were all surprised by just how good that book was. I think, yes, it has its cliches, but it's just a really, really fun book, and it was more like a romance between a witch and a witch hunter. And then the second one was Blood and Honey, and it was such a filler book. We were all so disappointed by that one. Nothing happened. It felt like I was reading about different characters, but then the ending, something huge happens. So then you're going to want to pick up the third, so now we're reading the third together. Yes, I am listening to that on audiobook, and I am actually intrigued so far. I think it's really good. I'm about 10% in, so I'm already feeling this more than Blood and Honey. So I'm curious to see how that all wraps up in the end. So that is my reading now. I finished The Remains of the Day by Kazuo Ishiguro, who is one of my favorite authors, and I thought I wouldn't love this one because there's no sci-fi, but it's got a lot of the same themes. Anyways, I'll talk about that in a wrap-up or something later, but I think I'm going to watch the movie now because there's a movie from the 90s starring Anthony Hopkins and Emma Thompson and a young Hugh Grant, 3 actors I adore. I never heard about this movie, never seen it before, so I'm curious to see what it's like, so maybe I'll update you on that later. But first I gotta work on some blog stuff, so I'll keep you posted. Okay, so now it's Wednesday. Ignore my hair, I'm just letting it air dry because I am at the beach. I'm going for this beach wave look, but my hair is wavy in some parts, straight in the other, and never know what to do with it. But anyways, I haven't read any more of Fireborne because I'm saving it for the beach, but I have been thinking about it a lot, so I think that's a good sign that this is a book I'm really gonna love. And I'm tempted to order the next book in the series. Actually, it's just a duology, so I'm tempted to order that and just marathon this and have it a completed series because I don't complete series very often. But I did listen to more of Gods and Monsters last night, and I think I'm about 30% of the way through now, but it is still really interesting. I am enjoying this one so much more than Blood and Honey. I don't want to say too much because if you haven't read the first one or the second one, I can't really get into anything that's happening now, but I do think a lot of the dynamics between Lou and Reed feel more like the ones in the first book. It does kind of feel like a rehash in some ways, but a lot of what I loved about their dynamic in the first book was missing in the second, and I think we're going to come full circle and come back to that eventually here, so that is fun. I'm really just excited to talk about it with the Bookstagram group because we have so much fun talking about this series. It's our favorite thing. I've been reading books with them for I think over 2 years now because they make bookmarks on the year anniversaries of all the books that we read together, and I have 2 of those now. So yes, we read the whole series together. It's so much fun. I just love that. So if you can find a buddy read group on Instagram or on Goodreads or even through Discord or something like that, it's really worth doing because I get so much more out of my reading that way. I never would have picked up Serpent and Dove on my own to begin with. So many of the books we read there, I never would have read. Like last month we read My Contrary Mary, which is one I would have picked up on my own, but what are some of the other ones? Like Fat Chance Charlie Vega, I don't think I would have ever got to on my own. They forced me to read Sarah J. Maas. I read The House of Blood and Earth or The Crescent City. Didn't love it, but I can say that I read some Sarah Maas and I tried it. What other ones? There's just a lot, like The Song of Race and Ruin. I absolutely adored. It's really one of the books that got me started on YA fantasy. So we just some really, frankly in love. I don't think I ever would have picked up by myself, and I was really surprised by how much I enjoyed it. So we read a wide range of genres in this group. It's mostly YA, but sometimes we do, like we did a couple Christina Laurens and we just tore those apart a little bit because they weren't the greatest of their work. I do love Christina Lauren, but the ones we read together, was it, what's that one called? I forget now. I'll put a picture of it on here, but we really didn't like it. So it's really fun to just have a group to talk about books with like that and all read at the same time. Anyways, I just went on a tangent. So that is it for now. Hopefully I can get to the beach at some point today. It's supposed to be 27 degrees and get through a little bit more of this because I really have been thinking about it quite a bit. So that is all. I'm going to sit here, drink my LaCroix, maybe have a nice coffee, and then we'll see where the day takes me. So I talked about on my blog how I'm reading this, and somebody told me that it is not a duology. I don't know where I got that from or why that was in my head, but there is actually on Goodreads. They're talking about the third book, which is Fire Song, so that is good to know. And she actually told me that the second one ends on a cliffhanger. So what did I do to myself? I thought I was going to be just reading this duology, getting it over with, but nope. It's an ongoing series, but that's okay because I do really like these characters and the politics of this world so far. But I had to pop on here and correct myself because I think I even said in my last video that it's a duology. I think I've said it twice in this video. So no, it's not a duology, it is a series, so that's interesting. Oh, I totally forgot to mention that I did watch the movie adaptation of Remains of the Day yesterday, and I really, really liked it. I love Anthony Hopkins, I love Emma Thompson, a young Hugh Grant. He was not in it a lot, but it was really a good adaptation. Of course, they changed a few things. Christopher Reeves is in it as well. I thought it was worth watching. I streamed it on Amazon Prime. Now Thursday. I am now about 50% of the way into Gods and Monsters, and actually at first I wasn't loving the audiobook. I find the narrator for Reed is a little bit over the top. He definitely was in the second one. I liked him in the first one, but his narration in the second one wasn't my favorite. And it started off that way in Gods and Monsters, but it's gotten better and I'm really kind of intrigued at this point. The thing about these books though is they're so big. I think this one's 620 pages or something, and it just seems excessive. I feel like I've been listening to this a lot and I'm only like 8 hours in, and I think it's a 16-hour audiobook, so it's a lot going on here. There are a lot of characters some characters from the first 2 books that I forgot even existed, but not overly complicated. It's a fun listen. I am enjoying it. I'm curious to see how it all wraps up. And then I'm on page 140 of Fireborne. Still really liking that. I'm liking some of the moral dilemmas that are happening in here. Lee, our main character, definitely is put in a tricky position. And I'm curious to see how he handles all of that. And I'm actually now more excited to know that this is a series because I'm getting really deeply invested in this world. The politics and history of this world is what makes it so interesting. And I need more books about dragons. I have Talon by Julie Kagawa, who's one of my favorite authors. Her The Immortal Rules series, Blood of Eden, is my favorite vampire series ever, and I keep meaning to read more from her, so I would like to read Talon. I have that. And somebody said Fire with Fire was a recommendation I got, but if you know of any good YA or adult dragon fantasies, please leave them in the comments below. Of course, there's Game of Thrones. I read the first one. Too much going on in there for me. I like the show. That's good enough for me. But if you have any recommendations, I'd love to hear them. Alright, so it is now Sunday, and I don't think I have vlogged for a couple of days, but I have finished the 2 books that I was reading during this week. And I will talk about gods and monsters first. I have mixed feelings on it. I did like it a lot more than Blood and Honey, the second book, but I just wouldn't recommend these on audio. I know I've said that, but they're just not great on audio. I wish I read them physically. But the problem with this one is a lot of it just feels like a rehash of the first book. There's some tropes in here I don't love. I really do like a loose character. I thought she had some good development, but Reed just kind of reverted back to who he was in the first book a little bit, and then his development was very much just what we got in the first book. So he just ended up in the same place. I loved the epilogue. I thought the epilogue was really, really sweet. And I do like the female narrator of this audiobook, so I would listen to more of what she does. But also, this book is way too long. It's like 632 pages or something ridiculous. There's so much filler in here. Just one action scene after another, and I don't feel like we got the twists in here that we got in the first 2. But it was fun. I'm glad I read it. I'm excited to talk about it with my Bookstagram group. So that's all I'll say about that one. It's the 3rd book in a series. I don't want to spoil it for you. But if you have read that series, let me know what you thought. And then I read and finished Fireborne, and I adored this. Actually, I always read the author bio and the author's note and things like that. And it says on here that Rosaria Munda studied political theory at Princeton. And that makes so much sense to me because the thing that was most intriguing about this book for me was the politics. The political system in here was really interesting. Even when I wasn't reading this, I was thinking about it in that way, and the characters in here are really contemplating whether this new system is actually better than the old one, because this book starts years after a revolution, which I think is really intriguing because normally you would read that's when a book would end after a revolution happens, and this one takes place after that, and we're looking at this new world and this new political system and these new people in power and seeing if what they've done is really that much better. So I think we're going to tackle that even more in the next book and in the rest of the series, but I just really liked where we ended up in this one. I do wish there were more dragons. There are dragons on here. I was expecting a lot more dragons, but I think that's true for a lot of dragon books. Can't be dragons all the time. And there's some hints at love squares, love triangles in here, but I really do like the 2 main characters, Lee and Annie, and there's obviously hints at a romance that's progressing very slowly, which I love. This is the perfect example of friends to lovers. A lot of the times I feel like friends to lovers, they're just better off as friends, but I can actually see these 2 together, and I'm excited to see their story progress in the next books. So I'm really, really happy that I picked this up. It is so outside of my comfort zone, not something I would normally read, and now I need all the dragon books, so give me your recommendations. I do have Talon by Julie Kagawa, and that is the only other dragon book that I own or that is even on my radar, so please let me know. But I do want to get the second one in this series. It's called Flame Fall, and I think the 3rd one comes out pretty soon. So yeah, that was definitely successful. Highly recommend that one. And then I do want to just mention the next book that I'm reading, and I'll talk about it in my next reading vlog, which I'll start probably tomorrow. And that is Accidentally Engaged by Farrah Heron. And I was going to, let me just show you. I was going to read this today, but it definitely feels like a beach read, and having a bit of a gloomy day today, so don't want to read a beach read when it's raining. So I put up a poll about what audiobook I should read next, and actually my options were Apples Never Fall by Leanne Moriarty, A Slow Fire Burning by Paula Hawkins. Those are both ALCs from Libro FM, so thanks to them for sending those to me. And then Horror Story by Grady Hendrix, because I love Grady Hendrix but never read that book, and I love the idea that it's based on IKEA. And then the last one was Razorblade Tears, which I've heard is incredible. And I was so surprised that A Slow Fire Burning actually won. And it is narrated by Rosamund Pike, who is an actress. She was the main character in Gone Girl, and she plays Jane in Pride and Prejudice. So she's fantastic. I am about 12% into that audiobook and loving it, but I'll talk more about that in my next vlog. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. It's really fun to be at the beach. I feel like there's more to show you, more things to do. So look forward to talking to you again soon. Thanks again for your time. Bye for now.